questions?
Yeah, and now stand
Okay.
open to questions.
Well, I'll start then. Lucas, how did you become interested in this topic? Why did you choose to talk about this or write a whole thesis about it?
Thank you. I've been waiting for someone to ask that question. Well, obviously it's a really big deal. I would consider myself an artist because I can't really draw, but I do like to write music and like poetry, and I just generally really enjoy art. And since I consider myself an artist, it's really important to me what it means to be an artist and what we call art. So I think specifically the reason this topic fascinated me was because there are people who are talking about it, but it's more of in general, people like to talk about AI as a whole. So I wanted to take a smaller part of that, which is important to me, which is art, and speak to that part of it. Thank you.
All right, question. So it seems like in your thesis that you're mostly talking about paintings, images.
Yeah.
Sometimes art can be considered like photographic or music or dance or movies, right? You can even say artistic.
Yeah.
Are you mostly thinking about paintings and that type of thing in your thesis, or are you applying it to other areas?
Yeah, in my thesis, I specifically say AI generated images because I figured it would be easier to narrow it down. My personal opinion is that any form of art shouldn't be called art if it's created by AI. But specifically in the thesis, I narrowed it down to just images.
This was really fun to read. I thought it was pretty straightforward, and I thought I had opinions about it going in. And as I kept reading, my opinions did change a little bit. I'm curious as to yours. You talk a little bit about bias, but I think when you probably chose your topic, you probably already had an opinion going in. Were you open to, I'll ask you that, were you open to changing your mind? I'm making the assumption that your thesis was what you were going in with your research, right?
Yes, it was.
Yes. Were you open to changing it? Did it change at all? Or you just affirmed what you believed all along?
Thank you, that's a good question. No, I knew my opinion was that no, but I think it did open my mind more because as I said, originally I said no, AI art just can't be defined as art, but my mind definitely has been changed there where I can't tell other people what to call art because again, art is up to interpretation. So I think that made me think about it more and made me think, understand a little more, but I would still say that we still shouldn't call it art, and that was my initial opinion.
Yeah.
What should you call it? What kind of word? When I was reading this, I was thinking the same thing. Like the word art is used a lot, but then you're saying it's not really maybe art, or it should be called something else. Mm-hmm. Is it okay just to call it AI art, or is it so far from AI of art you should just remove the word?
Yeah, that's
come up with another word. Like I don't know, like
yeah.
slop. They say that now, right?
That is what they do say. AI slop now.
Sloppy art or sloppy art, or whatever, because it's more derogatory, right?
That's also a good question because it's something that I also struggled with because I would still say I still don't exactly know where I stand on it because it's kind of more convenient to just call it AI art, but I think it would definitely better not to call it art, and that's why I say in my thesis AI generated images, or I would say in other aspects I would just say AI generated and then whatever form of art it is.
Sure. To piggyback off the word art, and by the way, wonderful presentation. I'm sorry we went right to business.
Yes.
So wonderful presentation, Lucas. Your skills that you have learned in the NCFCA have served you well. So speaking of the NCFCA, some of your peers have done digital presentations, really critiquing and saying that we can define art, that the, trash can balance trash art, whatever, is not true art.
Yeah.
Would you push back on that and say actually art is, I don't think you used the word subjective, but you did say an artist can give meaning to their art. So would you contradict that and say, no, we really can't say that trash is not art?
Yeah, that's
just a bad example.
Yeah, no, that's a good
example,
question.
I don't know.
And I did use the word subjective.
You did use it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to
And
give more credit.
I would say initially, I think I would have agreed with most of these people with the kind of the pushback against, you know, abstract art and
Right.
things like, oh, what is this? A 4-year-old could make this. But actually, as I've researched this more, I think my opinion has changed. I think I would push back on it. I would say art can still be bad art. I would still say maybe that's not a good art, but I don't think it's up to anyone to say, oh, we can't call that art, because I do believe that art should be up to interpretation. Thank you.
At one point in your paper, and I don't remember what exactly it was, but you talked about the idea that some researchers have shown that when presented with two images and one of them is exactly from a person, we know it's a person did this. And another was some kind of AI thing. Sometimes they can't tell the difference at all. They just don't know. How did you argue with that? I mean, because if you can't tell where it came from, how do you label it art and slop?
Yeah.
Or which one is the slop? I mean, humans can make slop too. I mean, you know, that's a lot. Before we had AI, we had sloppy art. Now we have AI sloppy art. But right, so and the reason we have the slop is that humans write slop and the machine reads the slop and spits it out, right? So there it is. Okay, so how did you talk about, I mean, it's hard for us to tell, right?
So you're asking, how do I keep my stance when people can't even tell the difference between AI and
they
human
can't
art?
tell, right?
Yeah. I would say that it really doesn't matter if they can tell or not, because for a couple of different reasons. First, I think a big part of art is in the process, and the entire process of creation and of imperfection, you know, all the creativity. And I would still argue that these are only things that only humans can do. But then also I would also say that the fact that we can't tell the difference is part of the problem, because I think what ought to make art so beautiful, the reason that art is the fact that it's an inherently human thing. So I think that whether we can tell the difference or not, if we know something is, or we still shouldn't accept it as art, because we don't want to give this uniquely human thing to AI and say, hey, look, it can do what we can do too, because I think that's something that should stay to humans, that like the gift that God gave us specifically to express. If that makes sense. Thank you.
You discussed a little bit of to create something versus being creative. So one of your definitions for creativity was the ability to create original ideas and novel concepts through the imagination. So are you saying that creativity must be completely original? Like when you make music, is it totally original of your imagination? Or how do you reconcile that definition with being creative?
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of that where, obviously, no, I would say it's not completely original. I'm going to write a song and be like, wow, this sounds a lot like this other song that I listened to yesterday. But, oh, sorry, my mind just went.
You're okay. I was kind of saying, like, what's the difference, you know, how do you reconcile your definition? Creativity is the ability to create original ideas and novel concepts through the imagination.
Right.
But recognizing it might.
Yeah. I would say that we also need to keep in mind the through the imagination part, because obviously the way we create, the way we learn, we're not going to be able to create without like taking things in. I guess you could say data in some way, but through the imagination is an important part, that we use imagination to take these ideas we already have and put them together. And I would argue that AI doesn't have imagination. And then it is a good question. But yeah, the idea of originality is something I think I could have gone even further research into because I don't disagree that we also, anything we create is, I don't know if I could say that's completely original because it's going to be taken from, however I would say that goes into the part of creativity of authenticity, which is the fact that anything we do is going to be based on past experiences, based on our emotions. It's going to be based on other things, and then we put that out into the world. That's all a uniquely human thing, and I think that's part of what makes it original in a way, because AI doesn't have these past experiences or these past emotions. It just had data and then puts out the most likely result.
That's a good answer. I was thinking historically, going back to apprentices who studied under the masters and just recreated for hours until they were identical to their master's paint. You know, would you consider that art if it's? But I liked your definition of authenticity.
Yeah.
So maybe that's. Yeah, that's hard.
Your question is when they.
I didn't have a question.
I wasn't
you
sure.
You can make one. Yeah, I was affirming what you just said.
Thank you.
That satisfied my question, I think.
So when you talked about, you know, art versus AI slop, it's going to be used in our culture. They're not going to stop doing it, right?
Yes.
We know that. The genie's out of the bottle. Doesn't matter what we call it. It's going to be there, right? Do you think it's a safety issue with doing that? Do you think it's like taking something away from the culture and experience when you have all these automatically generated images that so quickly come up, and the person can type in, oh, I like this brown dog, but change it, make its eyes purple or something. You know, because you could do that, and then it makes a brown dog with purple eyes, right? Do you think we should label that like this is assisted by AI at the bottom or something, or to help them understand this is not really an artist, it's more about computer simulation going on? What do you think is? Did you think about that all in your thesis about the risk to society? Or?
Yeah, thank you for that. Absolutely, I would say that, yeah, we can't stop the creation of AI slop. It's going to keep going on. But I guess, I don't know if there really is a practical solution with how far it's already gone. Hypothetically, I would say, yeah, I would most likely know when something is AI, and, you know, big bold letters tell me this is AI generated. But yeah, practically, I don't know if there's really a full solution for this problem, which is why I say when we do have something we can do, when we do know something is AI, we should not call it art.
So there's some, I've heard some artists talk about this, and they get frustrated because the images are influenced by the art, right? So you could say, make this look like Van Gogh, and it doesn't, right? It kind of, whatever that is, it just makes it like that. I don't know how you do impressions in math, but somehow it doesn't. And so some of the artists say, hey, you're stealing from our stuff. We never get compensated for this. Were you thinking about that as well? There's some idea that you're stealing my stuff, right?
Yes.
We don't know whose stuff you're stealing, but you're stealing everybody's stuff, and everybody doesn't get paid for this, so what are you gonna do?
Yes, absolutely. I did think about that. I found there wasn't a good place to put it in, but there is a whole other talk about this, about the way, because the way that AI works is it learns from other patterns and predicts, okay, somebody's asking for this based on all of the things I've seen, what is this going to look like? And yeah, a lot of times you will find examples of AI generating something, and it's like, hey, I made that, and it kind of made a worse version because I was part of the data, and these companies also don't have the rights to the art. So that is a whole nother issue. It's kind of hard to stop it. These people are going to keep using it, but when we do have a say, we can say that it's unacceptable. There also was a bill, I believe, that was passed a few months ago, which was good for this, where they said that AI generated art is non-copyrightable. You can't copyright it, and so, which is good because that shouldn't be allowed, because it was already taking from other things. You can't say this is mine now if an AI created it by already taking from other things.
So in a way, they're actually admitting this is AI slop, because you can't copyright it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
There's a good bill for people on this side, on my side.
Okay, so I'll ask my question and then give what I was thinking when I wrote it down. Is there any acceptable role for AI in art? I taught mixed media art for a number of years, and we used all sorts of stuff for our art stuff, media for our art. It could be postcards or other art or calendars, I don't know, all kinds of advertisements, found objects, music, we just use everything and create something new. Do you see AI art as, could it be an acceptable component of something, so not the final product, but is there any acceptable role in some final Lucas approved art?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before my answer would have just been a flat no, there's no role, but it is kind of hard to draw the line on that. I personally, I don't know if I can honestly answer this, because I would have to do more research into what constitutes as AI, because I know there's even programs, this is just the first example that comes to mind, where when you're putting music together in a music program and then it's humanize it, and it adds little imperfections which makes it sound as if someone was actually playing the instrument. So I don't know if whatever that is would be called AI, but something like that, no one's ever had a problem with that. So I think there definitely is a side that I think I would probably be on, where there's definitely parts of art where you could use it as a tool,
Right.
but I think we need to be really aware of where, which was kind of in my last point, in the autonomy. At what point are we letting the actual process, the artistic process, be taken by the AI, as opposed to it's helping the human do the process, and the human's still doing the process.
When you look at this AI art, is it the case, is you can't copyright it? Is it the case that artists are gonna go away because you don't need them anymore? Or are they just gonna be a lesser class of a few of them in a building doing some art, and that's it, right? Because the generation's so good. What did you read anything about that? The artists feel threatened, right? Why do you need artists if we can just type it in and just kind of stick it in there and no copyright, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and of course artists do feel threatened by it because it's so easy. Anyone who doesn't want to take the time out of their day to, learn can use it to create something. But so I guess hypothetically you could say that eventually there's no need for artists, but I would say that's the reason that we should push back against it. And also because artists feel threatened, I find that any actual artist I find does not support AI, AI generated images as art, and there is a strong pushback and a voice from that community specifically. And I would say no matter how far this goes, how many people are doing it, I think that's my thesis, is that no matter how many people are using AI to create art, or how much this is everywhere, we still should not accept that as art, and what we accept as art should be what we know is uniquely human.
I love the conversation and the ideas that your thesis presents, and just how it forces us to wrestle with questions maybe we wouldn't normally, and we should. So one idea that you mentioned, you say a couple times about what it means to be human, And, you do say, we're image bearers, we are made in the image of God. So you talk about the essence of a human being. This might be a hard question, and it's okay if you can answer it, but like, what does it mean to be human? And it's okay if you can't answer that, because many people in the room are like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question, kind of like, what's the meaning of life? But
softball,
I mean, as a Christian, I would say what it means to be human is to be to be made in the image of God, to be God's creation, to live out your purpose as God created you to be, and to live out to, know God. How that relates to art and stuff, it is a good question, because what does it mean to be human? But I would say, I guess the most important part is that we're made in the image of God, and only God can grant things consciousness, and God created us with certain gifts. I would say one of those gifts is creating art. So the idea of being made in the image of God, that's what it means to be human. AI wasn't made in the image of God, so that's why what it means to be human is important to art.
Good answer. That was really good.
How long do you have?
You guys have till 5:55.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I have another question. Okay, so, yeah, I had a lot of fun reading this, and I kind of went down some rabbit trails thinking, when the camera came out, a lot of people criticized it. It cannot be used for art. It's just a camera. It's just for taking photos. And now it's universally accepted, right, that photography is an art class, right, a form of art. Would you ever, again, I'm getting to your opinion again, could your opinion ever change down the line from your thesis right now?
Well, I don't know that for sure.
No.
I can't confirm that. My stance right now is that I don't see how my opinion would change. I would say in these, like when we look at the camera or the camera, I would still say that that's different from AI in the fact that the human still maintains the autonomy in the process. So my answer would be, for now, I can't see how my stance would change on this.
Has anything good come out of this for artists? Is there like such a rejection of not taking any part of AI art or AI generated images? And has it increased demand at all for human art?
That's also a good question.
It's okay if you don't know, just curious.
Yeah, I really don't know. Being as opinionated as I am, I would say I don't know anything good that's come out of this, but and specifically using it as art and putting it out there and saying, hey, look at this art, I would say no.
Sure. Do you have a favorite artist? A painter, what do we call this art?
Visual art.
Visual art?
It's a good question that I should have an answer
It's okay. No, just curious, yeah.
Not off the top of my head.
Sure.
But we could ask a musician.
Yes, what about music? Yeah, then that's right.
What was the hardest thing to think about when you wrote this? That made you thought, well, I'm gonna write an argument for this, but I don't know if I can make this work or not for the people reading it.
Yes, thank you. It was actually, I think my favorite part was the argument of AI being used as a tool, because I was thinking through, I was like, okay, what are reputation points? What are things that someone might say or that people have said? And I created this whole, this argument. The sculptor is still the artist. Their tool isn't the artist. Any artist, you wouldn't say the camera is the artist. No, the photographer is the photographer, the person who took the picture. And I really like that argument because it took me a while. I was thinking really hard. I was like, how is that different? I really couldn't see it. And I didn't even think of the answer to that. I had to go to my mentor, to my brother, and ask him, and he helped me, which I think was a good answer, which is the actual process of creation, the fact that AI in the creation operates independently from the person, which makes the AI the creator and not the human anymore. But in these other examples, the human still maintains autonomy and it's not operating independently. I would say even if someone's, I know there's kinds of art where someone's, I don't know, splashing paint onto a paper and calling it art, even that, the human is still doing that and still coming from the human. But that was the hardest reputation part and probably my favorite part.
Good.
Can I quote you?
Sure.
You said, when people start to use AI instead of using their talents, AI is no longer just a tool, it's a replacement. Have you found yourself aware of, I mean, we're all using AI now, right? Are you convicted at all? Like, have you found yourself using AI differently in light of your studies or in light of thinking of it as, oh, I'm using this as a crutch or a replacement for using my talents?
Yes, yeah, thank you, good question. So I'm supposed to still tell everyone I have good questions because y'all do have good questions. In case it sounds repetitive. But yeah, going through this, you know, the more I wrote this, the more stronger in my very opinionated stance that I get. So I try to not use, I'm trying to think of the last time. Yeah, the only times that I use AI, I think, is when I can confirm to myself, okay, I'm using this specifically as a tool, as an efficient tool to help me with this task that isn't supposed to be an exclusively human task. So, but I find I try not to use it as much as I can.
So, as they said in the intro, I use AI to help me fix my old car. Okay? It is the biggest pile of slop you ever saw. But it works, but you gotta be aware that it's gonna give you bad information. And if you do what it tells you, you're gonna total your car. That's the way it is. I'm just saying, I got 3 old cars and they're always breaking. So, but if I can confirm that if I do out of 10 steps, step 5, I'm toast. I would do step 5, the car's never gonna start again. Now, in art, it's not like that. You could use it and present it, and you know, it's sloppy, but it's not gonna break your car, right? See, so in one way, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how you think about how bad art, sloppy art can be. I mean, is it really, I mean, if you put a piece of art out there and you look at it and it's like, there's a person in a mirror, but the image of the mirror is all messed up. That's not really what it would be, you know, it makes mistakes a lot, right?
Yes.
You know, but it's not like it's gonna hurt anybody,
So
right?
what's the danger?
It's, yeah, there's no
What's the
danger.
danger?
Like, if you break my car, I'm really upset. I'm really. But if I have a piece of imagery, whatever, that's like a cartoon of me fixing my car, if I upload a picture of myself and say, make this a cartoon, here's me, here's dad fixing his car, make me look really frustrated, and put a caption, hey, the AI told me to do something that broke my car. You could do that. It'd be really sloppy, I know it would be, because I tried it, but it doesn't hurt, right? It's kind of fun, right? So I'm using it fun. I don't even treat art, AI art, as slop. It really is. I mean, now I in that part, but I don't really, I go into it thinking, what a piece of junk, but I'll try this for fun. Hey, this is gonna make a cartoon. That's how I look at it. Did you find anybody talking about, the artist may not like that, because I just did with a couple of keystrokes, but an artist could take like hours, and they'd have to sell it and do marketing, and oh my goodness, I'm like typing it in, and bam, there it is. There's good old dad with the wrench, fixing his car, and AI told him what to do with the car. It's wrong, now the car's broken. Right, that's a cartoon.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
but I'm just saying, it's a little bit different in that area.
So,
With I'm going back to the damage of the art. Is it really damaging us, or is it just like entertainment? I mean, how about a sloppy movie? I know you didn't talk about movies, but who cares about a
Yeah.
sloppy movie? I just delete the thing, right?
yeah, so it's sort of like where's the actual threat in it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, using it to fix your car, it'll probably get something horribly wrong, but
Yeah.
using it in art, it could get something horribly wrong and you can just make it again or something. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I think the question lies in what the purpose of something is. Like, what is the purpose of art? For example, I think art is human expression, and I think that things created by AI, that's not human expression. So we shouldn't call it art. You can generate an image of whatever, but I still would contend that we shouldn't call that art. And I'd say that that's different from, using it to like, because AI can be used in a lot of different areas as a tool. It's faster than people are. It's better than people are at a lot of things, at accomplishing tasks or these automated tasks. AI is perfectly capable of doing that, and really it doesn't matter if it's replacing the human process of building something. I would rather have a bunch of robots build something than have to have people in a factory, building something. It doesn't matter if they replace the human process, but that's why it's specifically important in art, because art is unique in that way, where the human process is part of what makes it special, is part of what makes it art, which is why it would be different, because art is somewhere where the human process needs to stay and shouldn't be replaced, because that's what makes art really special.
Let me follow up. Would you consider it art if I typed into because I'm trying to fix my car, and I can't find where this piece is. Where's the VVT solenoids at on this thing? So I typed in an AI, will you please make a picture that I can find on my car where the VVT left-hand solenoid is? And the thing took 30 seconds to write this great picture. Would you consider that art in your thesis, or is that just like a technical diagram? I was asking for a technical diagram for my old car, and I couldn't find it. And I asked it to just make one. Now, it did make one up. It was completely wrong. And I thought, oh, this is really wrong. But it did it. Do you consider that a diagram, or is that different from what your thesis is talking about? I mean, I didn't ask it for a nice picture of the Colorado sunset. I didn't ask that.
Yeah.
I just want to know what this part is. Give me a graphics, because I can't find it, right? Like, is it this right? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good question. And the answer is no. I mean, even if it did create a perfect diagram and was right, I'm all for that, honestly. If that's helping you, then sure. But there's still no reason to call that art, or to put that out on the internet. Hey, look at my art that I made, because it's really not art. Regardless of what kind of image it is, I would still say that even if it is helping you, that's all well and good. Or if it's not helping you, that's not well and good. But it still doesn't change the fact that we shouldn't call it art, is what I would say.
I'm having a hard time, Lucas, I confess, settling with that art. Well, I agree that humans ought to create art, but that the definition of art, the purpose is just human expression. I feel like you learn something different in challenge too. Like the classical educators would say, art is more than just human expression. Do you want to push back on me or with me on that at all?
That's a good point to bring up as well, because someone could write a whole separate thesis on what is art, what makes art, what constitutes as art. But so I really don't. It's a really hard question to answer. It's been going on, like you can look at philosophers like Plato and them, which were originally some of my sources, and then I decided I didn't need them. But in their talking about what is art, so this, that argument has been going on for millennia, but I still don't really know. I still don't really know, but I would say that anything that we can confirm, well, this makes art. I would say the things that we can tell this is art, and I think that's where the idea comes in, where my mind was changed as I researched that art is pretty subjective and up to interpretation. I would say our interpretation of AI art should be that it's not art. So I don't know if I can really answer the question of what do we call art, but I would say I would still say human expression, whether that's the only thing that makes art or not, it is a part of what art is. And creativity, I would say these are I would argue these are definitively parts of what art is, and I would also argue that AI does not have these things.
I think you said exclusively, we're looking at your language, and you wrote exclusively human expression.
Well, he was talking, and I wrote down, he said, what is the purpose of art? And you said human expression. What's the purpose of art? Is that what the author? Well, what is the purpose of art?
Just to be clear, my diagram wasn't art, it didn't make it right.
No.
Right.
Okay. I like it, I want them, but it doesn't, it's not art, got it.
Yeah.
It's a typical diagram, even though it has colors and cartoons and guys telling me like, go over here and look over here. But it's
Well,
kind of fun.
He said art is subjective, so I guess we could say it's art.
I'm just going with, it's not, I don't really care if it's not art, I just wanna get my car fixed, but that's fine. But it did use an artistic tool to give me an image.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I should clarify to that point where I can't say that's not art, you know. Somebody else can be like, well, I call that art, and I have no say in that because, you know, it's a big point that when I was submitting this to my professor, that my professor was making, that, you know, doesn't the viewer have some say in what they call art? And yeah, they do. So I can't say, is this art or is this not, which is what I clarified at the beginning. I don't think it's really difficult to definitively say that something is or isn't art, which is where the arguments with, you know, throwing a paint bucket on a wall, is that art? Or is duct taping a banana to a wall, is that called art? I don't know, but that's why I would say if anyone can choose what we decide is art, I would say anyone should choose to decide that things generated by AI are not art.
It's not human.
Yes.
Who is Professor Beach? Beach?
Yeah, sorry, maybe I should have changed the names on my thesis, but I was doing a college credit course, that was my professor.
Where from?
She lives in
What college?
Oh, I see, sorry. Southeastern University.
Oh, okay,
SCU. I'm
Christian.
doing a dual credit.
A Christian University. Okay. Yeah, not classical. Okay. So,
Well, it's the CC plus.
yeah, the SCU. Yeah, it's not classical.
Oh, okay.
I don't think, right?
Yes.
Just curious if that.
But they
is
do
that-
have a partnership with CC.
It is, was there a standard for art though? Like, okay, if your professor is saying we cannot define art, or the human has to say it, is there a standard for art that ought to be met to say we can call this art?
That's also a good question. I think the standard should be, is it like a work of human expression, uniquely human, and does it come from creativity? I guess just what my proofs are. Does it come from creativity, and is it a work produced for human expression? Something along those lines. Again, I don't want to try to answer this because I feel dishonest giving a definitive answer because I really don't know how to decide what is or isn't art. I do know that I think we should choose what to accept or what to call or what to accept art. I think if we're going to call something art, it should be a product of human expression, and it should come from creativity.
We have time for 2 more questions.
I'm good. This has been a great paper though, I loved it, I'm okay, I don't have any more questions.
I don't have a question either, I just wanna say, really good job on page 4. There was a quote that you had, Miller et al., and you summarized it so well, and the idea was brand new to me, but your reduction of it was that art is viewed with a higher symbolic value as opposed to mechanical task. I mean, they said it with so many more words,
Oh, yeah.
but you said it so concisely, and I was like, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Do you guys have any other comments? Mr. Clevenger?
No, this was really good. I work in computers forever, and when AI first came out, I thought there's no way it's gonna work, right? and I was totally wrong. It doesn't work as good as I thought it is, and it's got so much slop in it, it's not funny. But I think we'll wake up in 10 years and this same discussion might change, right? And that's what it looks like, because, it's threatening people now, and we gotta get over the threat. Everybody's saying, I'm gonna lose my job, especially the artists. That's true, we gotta think about that. But that happens in other technologies as well. Okay, they made the car, the people who made buggies were really upset. And now there aren't any buggy makers, but they moved to cars. Eventually, maybe we'll have something better than a car, I don't know, and then the car people get upset, I don't know. But this one seems to be like a repeat theme, but it is okay to be upset, and it's okay to have these discussions, because if you don't, it kinda hurts society, and we kinda devalue people we shouldn't, right? We need to talk about that. Artists are really important to culture, for sure, I think so. And we don't want to devalue them and say, hey, we don't need you anymore, just type it in, it gets the pictures, for sure. And so for that, I love this paper.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I just appreciate all the ideas that you're wrestling with and asking us to wrestle with as well. So, well done, Lucas. Thank you for inviting us to be your judges as well. I'm really, really proud of you, and keep wrestling and seeking truth. Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, well done.